man in the mirror? It's easy to forget with such a phenomenal legacy and a humongous talent, as well as some controversy, that Michael Jackson was actually a human being. One with an incredible story that we'll get to see unfold on the big screen next year, played by his own nephew Jaafar Jackson. But surely, more importantly than how much Jaafar resembles his uncle, is how much he reflects the real man inside the myth and the legend. Let's break it down.
Newsflash, the kid is not his son. No, Jaafar Jackson is not Michael Jackson. He's not a clone. He's not an identical twin. He's not a reincarnated Michael. He's related. He's someone's son. He's Jermaine Jackson's son, Mike's big brother. He is a Jackson, but he's not Michael Jackson. I know, who knew? He looks a lot like him, especially in those paparazzi pictures. And he has the same classic Jackson soft-spoken voice. And he really is channeling his uncle, in my opinion anyway. But he's not Michael Jackson. But he really isn't Michael Jackson. And I think, though that was the most obvious statement you probably heard, but it needed to be said because I am a Michael Jackson fan. Moderate, but a big one. And I'm on social media and I'm seeing so many people having so many problems with this new biopic based on the very minute. Michael's hair is slightly out of place here. The nose contours aren't quite hitting it. His shirt is not exactly the same. To the really over-the-top criticisms around the whole shebang. Problems with the Michael Jackson estate and some of the dubious things, some of the behind-the-scenes moves, even conversations about the skin color of the actor playing the young Michael, the actor playing Joseph Jackson, Coleman Domingo, a high, almost Oscar-level quality actor. Actors not being seen as foundational Black Americans, as they say. They're not born in America. Their ancestors are not Black slaves. So not Black enough. Nia Long, I grew up in the 90s loving Nia Long, all the way when she was Lisa, Will's girlfriend in The Fresh Prince, to The Best Man. And people saying she's not truly Black because I think one of her parents has Caribbean heritage. I'm like, whoa. The extremes that people are going over on this biopic is crazy, but then I guess I'm not surprised because Michael Jackson brought out the extreme in people like nobody else. You can't really be too moderate when you're talking about Michael Jackson. But I'm saying the fans, you need to chill because some of this noise is really not doing this biopic any justice, and it's not doing the legacy of Michael Jackson any justice. If his art and his legacy is to survive for generations, it needs an injection of positivity. It needs to be appreciated in the mainstream, not just the pockets of fandom. Now, Mike loved his fans, and his fans love him. Like I said, I'm a fan, but there are levels. And I feel like I need to address the elephant in the room. This film, biopic movie, already has enemies. On one hand, you've got the enemies of the media who are going to rip this movie apart. The same ones that praised the absolute sinister hit job, Leaving Neverland, full of lies and fabrications. Not that I'm biased. And then the other side of the spectrum, the obsessive fans who literally talk of Michael like he's a god. And in my opinion anyway, there's only one God and he's Jehovah. And I'm sure Michael would agree because he very much believed in God. But for some fans, they literally see him as a god, as a messianic figure. And to quote a movie or to put my own spin on a old school famous comedy, he's not the Messiah. He's just a very good boy. Obviously, Life of Brian, Monty Python, and the actual quote is he's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy. But unless we're talking about bad era Michael, I don't really want to associate Michael with that word naughty. But you get the gist. In my opinion, and I think is the real opinion, is that Michael Jackson is neither this deified, divine, supernatural being that is like an angel of light, or is he the devil, this evil child predator, a construct of poisonous media and nasty propaganda that started to rise up when he bought the Beatles ATV catalogue. Let's not get it twisted. He's just an amazing human being. Almost supernatural with his talent, yes. Christ-like with his love of children, suffer the little children unto me, and the love of all people. Can You Feel It is my favourite song of all time, written by Jackie and Michael, and that talks about the blood inside of me, inside of you, spread the message, love, as well as his own hits like Man in the Mirror and Heal the World. But he was a very deeply devout man, devoutly religious, and had a love for all people, and was exuded love and beauty. But he was still a man, a mortal human being. And I think that's the problem that I found being a fan of Michael Jackson as a man and the artist over years, is that the two extremes. He's either deified or demonized. And I feel like the magic trick that this movie has to perform, and I've got confidence in it. John Logan is a fantastic writer, Oscar winner. Graham King is a fantastic producer, I think Oscar winning too. And Anton Fuqua is the business as a film director. Training Day is still one of the top up there movies in the game. That sounds like a fantastic combination of talent right there. We're not talking Man in the Mirror biopics or the other ones that have come that are like essentially really low budget fan flicks. We're talking about real high-end professionals who are the top of their game. You see the makeup on Jaafar? Top notch. Remember, you're seeing it in paparazzi style pictures. When you see it on film with the right lighting and lenses and stuff, he's gonna, I'm sure, I believe, anyway, he's gonna look fantastic. So for me, the epic win of this biopic is that it's gonna make Michael human again. I don't think he's been perceived to be human for a very long time. And most of the time, due to injustice, he's been labeled a monster. If I had $1, like many of you fans, for being online, having to defend negative statements, misplaced propaganda, nasty comments that are just simply untrue about Jackson himself, about the case and circumstances around it, we'd all be as rich as Michael was when he was alive and in death. What gets me excited about the biopic, besides the fact that I can't wait for them to cover the span of Michael's multi-decade career, I get really excited about the Jackson 5. I'm a huge fan of the Jacksons, Jackson 5. I've met the Jackson brothers, all except for Randy. I interviewed them. With Marlon. I've met them in the flesh a couple of times. I'm a huge fan of the legacy of the Jacksons and what they mean, not just initially to Black America, then mainstream America, but the whole world. Some fans are like, oh, I don't want to see that. They would be happy with a biopic just from the Dangerous tour onwards. Where, funny enough, at the later years of Michael's career, I'm still a fan, but I loved his earlier stuff. And I think you'll find there's a lot of fans who are most vocal online who only really want to see and recognize Michael in the era that they came in. I'm a Star Wars fan, and it's like that with the movies, that I love the original movies, and then the prequels came out, didn't like them so much. But you've got fans now who grew up with the prequels who hate the original films or dislike them. And I feel a little bit of that with Michael Jackson. They don't want to hear about the Jacksons. They want to hear about the Jackson 5. They want to hear about Little Michael. And I think that's a shame. And I'm so glad the movie is ignoring that and telling the story from the beginning. because you need to understand the roots. You need to know about Gary, Indiana. Yes, you need to know that Joseph was a very harsh, extreme taskmaster of a father who was a deeply flawed man. But I think what I'm glad about casting an actor like Coleman Domingo is he's going to humanize Joe Jackson, because he has definitely been made to be the devil. And I'm not even defending his flaws, but I'm saying that as of understanding the family, that's a generation not too far from slavery. They were in poverty. How that vision for his family brought them into superstardom, particularly Michael. You don't get Michael without the Jackson story, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think I'm so glad that there is going to be, that's another part of humanizing the story. The fact that Michael had complicated relationships with his family. What person doesn't have a complicated relationship with their family? Especially if it's one that's global superstars. Oh, you hear comments like, oh, the Victory Tour. Oh, they were mean to Michael. And essentially, he retired his whole brothers. Can you imagine the job you've been doing since you were a child? Suddenly, you're unemployed in your 20s because the lead singer goes solo. Again, I'm glad Mike went solo, and that was his right. He wanted to express himself, but don't act like it wasn't at a cost. And then those family members are having to find whole new careers suddenly. Not so easy when you've been internationally famous. But that's another example of sometimes when the fans deify Michael, because as if he can't do anything any wrong or make no mistakes. And I think the problem with that I'm worried about is with a movie is no movie that's a biopic. I think of Bohemian Rhapsody, Freddie Mercury. That movie showed Freddie Mercury's flaws as well as his strengths, his shadow as well as his light. You can't have the protagonist, the main character of a movie, be perfect all the way through. Some fans might want him to be shown as a victim from the beginning. So he was a victim as a child. So you make Joe the devil. He's a victim from the media, which he actually was. So everybody that comes into his life is evil or exploits him. And yes, there was a lot of that, but I'm going somewhere. But he is the angel of light that's done nothing wrong. That's giving Jesus vibes. That he was in the world, but there was no sin among him. I don't want to see that movie. I want to see the genius, the beautiful man, but had his issues, normal issues of personal struggles, not criminal, not malevolent, issues that you would have if you had insecurities and you were in front of millions of people when you're breaking out in acne, when your skin is lightening because of a condition like vitiligo, that you've got lupus, all those, the medical issues, the paranoia, the backstabbing, all of those things, of course, the accusations that practically killed him. All of that. And I think because of all those things I've mentioned, I have a suspicion that this movie can't satisfy the ultra fans or the ultra haters. Because all the haters want to see is it going to show him as a paedophile? Is it going to make it almost like they get off on that kind of thing, and they're going to show how he harmed children? And I bet they're going to cover that up, blah, blah, blah. He was found not guilty on 10 counts, by the way. Free man. But then the fans are going to be like, they wanted to moonwalk on water. That he's literally glowing light and that he's like, bless you, my children, like nothing wrong. I just want to see Michael again. I'm a child of the 80s. I remember Michael in the Thriller era and seeing the changes and transition, but I loved him all the way through. Seeing those pictures of Jaafar, even though they're not official, hits me in a very emotional place. I'm like, wow, he looks like his uncle. That's Michael Jackson. I think Nia Long is fantastic cast as Catherine. She looks the part. I wasn't sold on Coleman Domingo as Joe, but he's looking more the part in makeup. The image of the brothers in the J5 early years era that leaked got me excited. I'm like, wow, I suspected they were going to go that far back. But I was always rooting for it, always hoping, because I want to see all of that stuff. So I suspect this is not going to please, like I said, those extremes at both ends. But I don't think it's for the fans. It certainly ain't for the haters. I think this biopic is going to be a gift for the mainstream world who are either on the fence or in the dark about the real Michael Jackson. That he's not this mythic figure, this ghoul that the media has portrayed him as, this crazy man, this eccentric. And he's not, like I said, a weird, like a Pied Piper that has all these fans that just follow after him wherever he went and whatever he did. I think I'm excited that the world is going to get to know what us fans, and again, I'm not bashing on fans because there are all sorts of fans. There are moderate to super extreme. I'm talking about the burn down your house if you say anything remotely critical of Michael types. But majority of fans I've met over the years and known and interacted with online, you're fine, you're okay. I'm one of you. I feel this, if it's done right, Jaafar's looking like he's knocking it out of the park, will really strike the balance of who Michael Jackson was. A man of extremes, a man of many different directions, but had the one heart and the one talent that no one could deny. And I am so excited for the rest of the world to fall in love with the art, the craft, and even the man of Michael Jackson that us who've been fans for a lifetime have always known. Very excited about it. I don't know, for Michael to finally be understood, unfortunately not while he was alive, but for generations to have a point, an area they can pinpoint and say, oh, that's who Michael Jackson was. People don't read the newspapers. People are not going to go through hours of transcripts. People are going to just receive what is fed to them on TV or on the internet. The beautiful thing about a biopic is it gives you a story that inspires you to go and do your research. It's not going to tell the 100% truth. There are fans who I respect who do bring up points that I think it'd be nice if the movie covered, such as the role of the Jackson 5, the Jackson's caretaker, Rose Fine, their live-in teacher and nanny on tour, when they were traveling. People like Bill Bray, his lifelong security guard, like a surrogate dad. There are so many people that have contributed to Michael Jackson's life and the mythos that you'll understand him more if you understand their contributions to his life. But it's only going to be, 2 hour maybe, 2.5 pushing it movie. It's not possible for all of the details that serious fans know, the deep cuts, to be out there. But it doesn't have to, because this movie is for you, it is for us, but it's also not for us, if you're tracking me. I would be happy, if nothing else, this movie converts people to understand who the real Michael Jackson was and is, and then we don't have to get into these endless discussions and debates and arguments, especially online, about all the misinformation and the mischaracterization. Jaafar is not the man in the mirror, but if he reflects all that's good and great about his beloved, famous uncle, legendary uncle, then he gets a thumbs up from me. I don't want a Jesus Christ-esque vision of Michael Jackson in film or in real life. And I don't want a lying, demonic child predator force propaganda narrative about the man to be in play whatsoever. I want that brother, that cool brother, abundantly talented kid from Gary, Indiana, who grew up and changed the game. I want to see him on screen. I want to be excited at his triumphs. I want to feel his angst when he went through his personal struggles. But I also want his true self to finally be understood. That he's not just a man in the mirror, but we can see a little bit of ourselves in that same mirror too. Yes, Jaafar looks like his uncle. I strongly believe that. But I want him to mirror all that was good and great about his Uncle Michael. If he does that, I'll be a happy fan. This ticks boxes for me. I'm a movie guy, huge movie lover. Like I said, I'm a fan of Michael and the Jackson family. And I'm very much into truth and getting the truth out there and having honest conversations and dismantling propaganda. I have it on good authority that he remained a religious man up until when he died. So I would encourage you to, if you have tendencies to go on that deifying side a little bit, take Michael's advice and get to know the maker, because I really believe he's with him right now. But comments below and see you in the next video.